What is up, everybody? Another episode of OG55 Live. In this live stream, we are going to break down and discuss the impact and the damage to the two big players in the Orlando area, which is obviously Disney and Universal. We're going to talk about it, break it down, discuss it. We're also going to take your comments and questions. Up next, OG55 Live. Welcome back. It's OG55 Live. I brought my good friend, my collaborator, my producer, Mr. Vashguy, host of the Freshly Squeezed Show here on the channel. Dre, welcome back, brother. Oh, you are.
Sorry about that. I was good. I do apologize. Let me see. We're live. Okay. I do appreciate you bringing me on this one. This one's going to be maybe a little bit somber, right? But I think there is kind of, hope at the end of the tunnel. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And so good, bad. Otherwise, I think it's important to go over it. And there's a lot of interesting discussion within it. So I do appreciate you bringing me on. If you want to go ahead and follow me, you can go do so right down there at Vashguy. Just go ahead and type that in. And as Christine Wastelands McCarthy would say, we can have all the robust discussion right over there. I do appreciate you guys bringing me over 1,000. That is great. OG, just go ahead and play the drop there. I just love hearing this one.
Let's go ahead and play the Christine Wastelands McCarthy drop.
Mm-hmm. And there's the biggest bargain of all.
There it is. It is the biggest bargain of all. So if you want to go ahead and follow that, you can. And if you want to see me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now, Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed. Your source for juicy news and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove. Let's see.
Pay attention, it's Joe time.
There you go. And as is customary for our live shows, you think we should play the one here?
Oh, absolutely. Let me go ahead and give me just a moment while I go ahead and get that. Absolutely. It has to be done, Dre. It has to be done.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Love it. Love it.
We are officially live. We have our good friend Captain John D in the chat. We got our good friend Mr. Theme Park Casual in chat. We're ready to rock and roll. So let's talk about this, Dre. This is very fascinating. Mm-hmm. You know, this hurricane hit, and I'm telling you, the footage that we're seeing out of Florida with this hurricane, especially in the Fort Myers area, is absolutely insane, devastating footage that we're seeing. So I think it goes without saying that before we even get started, our hearts, thoughts, prayers go out to everybody in Florida. This is a major, major disaster.
Huge, even bigger than I was. I couldn't contemplate the size of devastation, especially to these kind of coastal areas. It was pretty insane. I know a lot of video footage is coming out from, the various vloggers and types, staying on resort property. But I feel it's kind of important to kind of, go over at least some of what the coast experienced, because it was pretty. This was pretty insane. This impacted quite a number of people, yes, it goes without saying. I do appreciate you, Captain John D, bringing that up. Thoughts and prayers to all of the victims affected, in no matter what capacity.
So now, should we start with? Because it seems like Universal got hit a little harder, quite a bit harder than Disney World. Should we start with Universal? Kind of go from there?
Yeah, we can start at Universal, sure.
All right.
Let me go ahead and pull up some stuff here. I think this is the one that kind of encapsulates it all. Per deadline, Universal Orlando Resort flooded by Hurricane Ian. reopening to all guests this weekend. However, in what capacity remains to be seen. I know they're going to be opening, I think, what is it, tonight for Halloween Horror Nights, which is interesting. And then it should open to all guests with tickets and so forth tomorrow. So it's quite interesting. But I mean, initially from some of the photos that we were getting, it was pretty intense. This is obviously an Islands Adventure right here, and they took on a lot of rain, as you can see illustrated here in this section of track for the Hulk coaster. Now, this was traditionally like a mist tunnel where you kind of head underground for a little bit before coming back up, and it is completely underwater, essentially, and is at the same kind of water level to the adjacent lake. I mean, this was severe. This was a lot. And other images, I think the big one that people are talking about the most is this image right here. This was to the Jurassic Park River Adventure attraction, and you can see a huge gaping hole in the side of this structure, which was like, whoa. I mean, this Universal got it pretty bad. The damage isn't limited to that, however. You had major flooding along the I-4 Express leading into Universal and some of these other resorts, these resort properties. You had, footage like this with just crazy amounts of water. I guess. Oh, well. See? It's live, everybody. But you had just insane amounts of water in this area, which is kind of interesting. I mean, I know OG and I were debating before the show, like, why is it that Universal seems to have gotten hit a little bit harder than even nearby Walt Disney World? It's kind of a fascinating thing to think about, because they are only steps away from each other, and yet they took on some damage by a reconstruct. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, go back to the Jurassic Park
Sure.
building just for a second. I kind of want to bring something up, and I'm going to get so much flack from like the Universal fans in regard to this, and I want to make it very clear, guys and gals. I'm not making a definitive statement. I'm just bringing up a possibility, a maybe, a what if kind of scenario, right? Here's the thing. When this hurricane hit the Orlando area, it was not a Cat 4 hurricane. From what I understand, it was just a Cat 1. Now,
yes,
being a major theme park operator in the Orlando area, you would think those buildings would be able to withstand a Cat 1. The Jurassic Park show building took a massive hit. As you can see, there's a gaping hole in this thing. Now, a lot of fans like to kind of boast, well, Universal builds things really fast, right? They get a ride up in 6 months, no big deal. That's great. Now, here's my thing, and this is where I might get some shit, but I just want to bring it up. And again, I don't know for sure. I'm not an engineer. I'm just bringing it up. I'm just kind of for discussion purposes.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a company that's rushing to get shit open fast, are they cutting corners along the way is my question. Are they cutting corners in order to make that goal? Not only does Universal get these things open really fast, but to your point, Dre, on the phone, they're also a lot cheaper. Are they using materials that are not necessarily high quality to bring costs down? Are they cutting corners to get it open faster? And is that what we're seeing here? It is a little bit jarring to see this kind of damage from a Cat 1 hurricane. I don't know. I would think, a theme park in Orlando would be able to withstand those kind of winds. I don't know. What do you think, Dre? Am I off base here? Is there something to this possibly? I don't know.
Well, it is interesting, I mean, it is Cat 1, and for what we heard, there was winds reported anywhere between 45 miles per hour and 60 miles per hour in this general area. Yeah, I mean, I think there is something to be said about, from what I have heard before in the past, all major structures at Walt Disney World property, by comparison, are built to withstand a Category 5 hurricane. So it's, it's one of those things where you would expect that Universal be, building its attractions to a similar standard, and yet, this shows that maybe they did not, or maybe they were uniquely affected by the unique situation that lay before them with Ian's path and so forth, and the outer rings of that storm surge, kind of hitting it in kind of a particular way. I mean, it's a very kind of interesting discussion. And this isn't even just limited to Universal's active theme parks. Really, and I was saying this kind of early on, what is going on with Epic Universe? Because Epic Universe is one of those things that, well, it's still in its construction phases. And you have a lot of raw materials out there. You have, trenches being dug and so forth. What is that all like? And they got hit hard there, too. Bio Reconstruction has been posting photos all day of just unbelievable photographs of essentially new lakes that Epic Universe didn't intend to have. You could see, whole swaths of this construction project now just completely underwater. In these new, like I said, these essentially lakes that have that have built up from just the insane levels of rain that they got as a part of the storm. And you have to wonder, with all of this, with all of this water in these various areas, which they did not necessarily anticipate to this extent, you have to wonder if this is going to push back construction quite significantly. I wouldn't be shocked if this pushed back construction months, maybe even up to a year. I mean, this is quite a bit here. And again, this was an active construction site where you have, like I said, raw materials that are, now exposed to these elements that maybe, weren't anticipated to be exposed to, let's say. You have, you have footers and foundations that were dug and trenches dug that were, supposed to accept concrete or any number of different parts of this construction, and now those are underwater. This is something right here. Universal got hit hard. They really did, and we can speculate as to why, but now with Jurassic Park River Adventure, experiencing that level of damage to the side of its attraction show building. And again, I mean, from what we've heard, it's just kind of sheet metal. Those things can be those things can be repaired relatively easily, right? You just gotta wonder. It's like, wow. I mean, this was not expecting this.
Yeah. Now, do you think that we talked about it earlier on the phone, but for the audience and everything, do you think that it's possible that the way the trajectory of the hurricane, what parts of the hurricane, whether it was the outer, the outer band or closer to the eye, do you think that Universal got hit harder based on where it kind of landed? Maybe.
Yeah. So this was kind of this was an interesting thing. I'll see if I can enhance this for you. So anybody who is watching this kind of knows that the trajectory was changing all the time in terms of the forecast of where this thing would actually make landfall, what actual path it would take throughout the state, and before it actually went up to some of the northern, in relation to Florida, northern states in the southeast there. And some people thought, it was going to bypass Orlando completely. Some thought that it was going to go to the, switch over to the Gulf of Mexico. But no, it took a path that kind of just sheared right into the state, as you can see. And it's interesting because when it actually made landfall, obviously it lost a little bit of steam, but it still was a Category 3 for a lot of its lifespan within the state. And it had been downgraded to a tropical storm, I think, as it was passing, but then it started to pick back up steam. And as you can see, you'll see the categories start to change from red to yellow to like an orange area right here. Well, if you see where that was building up steam, it was kind of right on the kind of tip of the Orlando area right there. And so that distinctly put it, it was starting to surge up again right by the kind of the tip of Orlando where Universal sits. So that was kind of an interesting, just a really kind of particular scenario that played out here. I was also speculating with OG. There's a couple of things that the Universal property, there's a couple of properties that make the Universal property very, very interesting as it relates to Walt Disney World. Walt Disney World is kind of a large, low-lying, flat area, and it's very, very spread out, whereas Universal Studios Resort is kind of in almost like it's a much more urban area. It's much more densely packed, and those kind of vortexes create some very unusual patterns that are very, very difficult to kind of predict. And it also too, I believe in the construction phase of Walt Disney World, they really did put an emphasis on flood management. I remember Joe Fowler and others really kind of, adjusted those waterways in order so that flood management would really be taken care of from jump. And I don't think, especially when you get into the kind of the city of Orlando and you're having to rely on, public utilities and other things in order to take down this water. They didn't necessarily, I don't think, benefited from the same steps and precautions that maybe Disney did back in the 1960s and 70s, and so that flood water really kind of affected them to a degree that was far more impactful than even Walt Disney World Resort. So it's kind of all these things. It's all these things kind of coming together, creating this very unique situation out there in the Central Florida area.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, and the unique thing about the building of Walt Disney World is that Walt Disney World was really a project. I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but it's kind of a project built out of love, because it was really Roy saying, you know what, I'm going to finish this for my brother, right? I'm going to finish this for Walt. And so I think there's a special amount of care that goes into something like that. It's a very personal thing, and you want to get that right. And I know Roy did. He wanted to get that right. And I think that's going to be different than say a project like, building the Universal Resort or even current Disney projects. I don't even think the current Disney parks like Hong Kong or Shanghai or any of the other parks that they built recently went with that level of love and care and preparation, because it's a different animal. It's a corporation now. Back then, yes, it was a corporation, but like I said, it was a very personal thing at that time for Roy. And sure. I just think that there was just a different a level of attention that went into something like that back then. And it paid off, I think, in the end. I think it really did.
I think so. It's a very interesting thing. I mean, and you're right. This is also the RCID, right? Where it was swampland, undeveloped swampland. They had to create all this infrastructure for themselves and could do it through a lens that took these hurricanes and these flood management systems and so forth into account very, very early on in its development cycle. Develop them from the ground up, and do some kind of use some more modern techniques in the 1970s to actually develop this piece of real estate to a degree, and with love, as you say, that really kind of minimized damage, I think, on the back end. Whereas Universal, I mean, they're pitching these theme parks down on far more developed land, and so you're going to have varying degrees of flood management systems in place that you kind of rely on to operate these parks. So it's this kind of crazy juxtaposition of different construction methods and so forth, kind of creating these different these different realities in the event of a storm. It's a fascinating thing. It's not something we typically talk about or research that much into until it actually happens, of course. but it's interesting to compare and contrast these very in the grand scheme of things, they're very closely positioned properties, but extremely different degrees of construction techniques and histories and so forth, shaping what'll eventually become of them.
Yeah, I'm very curious to kind of go back to Epic Universe. I'm very curious what this has, what kind of impact this has on that. If they kind of readjust that opening date, because it looks pretty bad. I mean, that looks really bad. I mean, it's going to take a lot of resources just to dry that up, to pump that water out, and God knows what kind of damage occurred. You know, it's hard to tell from this kind of viewpoint, but those structures that went vertical, that could have taken some pretty significant damage that we can't really tell from up here. You know,
yeah,
like this. It could be months or even a year delayed, like you said.
Also, too, OG, you bring up a great point here. I mean, we're not just talking about theme parks that were impacted by this. Obviously, the major coasts of Florida were devastated by this impact, and so you have to believe that the cost of construction materials and so forth, and the logistics in actually getting them to the Florida state is, that's going to be a process. As we kind of speculated before this show, it's going to take years to actually undergo that kind of intense process there. So how many of those construction materials are going to make it to Epic Universe to get that back on schedule when you compare it to the amount of homes that are devastated, apartment complexes that are devastated, base infrastructure that's devastated that needs to come online first, before you get to some kind of these recreational projects right here. From what I have heard, actually, that's kind of one of the things that's holding up the Moana construction right now. Before Hurricane Ian, obviously. I guess there were two major projects taking place within Epcot, and I believe what was it? I believe it was Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, and you have the kind of this Moana attraction, walkthrough attraction, and I guess Moana had its steel and construction materials on site as early as 2019. And I guess the Cosmic Rewind site was falling a little bit behind. They asked the Moana management team, hey, look, listen, do you mind if we borrow some of your construction materials to get this project back on course in time for its opening date? And it's like, oh, sure, don't even worry about it. Go ahead, take all the construction materials that you need. Not knowing, of course, that the entire world would shut down, that there would be once in a lifetime logistical supply chain issues and all this kind of stuff. And that's really got the team very much behind. From what I understand, the date that they have given some people, who have various sources into this, they're like, look, I can't even commit to that. We're so far behind, and we don't even know whether or not we're going to get materials, quickly enough and in the supplies that we need and with the labor that we require to get it up by that point. That's this kind of thing. That's just within the middle of Epcot. Now expand this out to a state level scale, and I don't know, maybe Epic Universe will be impacted to a great degree by this. That's
fascinating, because that really does change so much. That changes so much in terms of timelines and everything. A lot of fans were, talk about Disney's response to Epic Universe. Well, with that, was it 2025, right? It's supposed to open?
Yes, I believe that was the date. And yeah, Brian Roberts was pretty bullish on that date as well.
Yeah, and we talked about with Family Man the other day, we talked about how, we thought the next D23 Expo would be about Disneyland's 70th, because that's in 2024, and then 2026, it would be more about the response to Epic Universe. Well, if this delays Epic Universe a year, that changes all that, right? It changes the plans, the response, if there is a response, but it changes everything. It's crazy how all these things are connected and how that cascades all the way down. It's absolutely wild.
It's it's a real strange thing. It's going to be fascinating to see, what impact this does have on this site for sure. I mean, they're just the cleanup process alone is going to take a while. Then you have to really assess what you have to work with. I mean, it's going to be a deal here, and it will, like we've implied many times before, this is going to impact this a lot. Let's see though, but some other sites and everything had some updates. Yeah, you can see even BioReconstruct again. Good source to go with these things, so I understand why media is using them more and more. You could see this was the water level before the storm, water level after the storm. Wow. You could see right here. That's quite a bit right here. So it's about right here in that post shot. It's quite a bit. They took on a lot of water for sure. Boat dock at Royal Pacific underwater, Universal Orlando, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean it was quite something. But Disney wasn't spared from all of this, by the way.
Right.
Wedge 2 News got some footage out there. Looks like this is by the Swan and Dolphin, and you can see just how much water they took on as a result. So,
oh my God,
quite a bit. This is quite a bit. J Hawkfly on Twitter looks like had the original footage, but this was this whole area was hit pretty hard by some of these things. So, however, to contrast with Universal, Disney wasn't hit nearly as hard. We had a lot of people there actually going for the 40th anniversary of Epcot. That was to take place on October 1st. So you had a lot more vloggers there, let's say, than you would usually see for any one of these things. I mean, you might get some Floridian vloggers, but I guess vloggers were coming from all over, including many from California, in order to take place in those whatever festivities they were going to have on October 1st for the 40th anniversary at Epcot. My thing was, it was like, they weren't going to do much, but, people really loved that park, and so they were in town. And you had some people staying at the, right here, this is the Animal Kingdom Lodge. And some people got to see some animals, as you can tell, but, there was a lot of debris, I think, was the consistent story going on there. However, I will say, and again, I also want to put in some heartwarming stories as well. From what I can gather between all of the resorts, guests were really, really treated well. I did not really know this, but I guess during these kind of bigger hurricanes that hit the actual Florida area, I guess it's kind of a tradition, ritual, a pattern where you have a bunch of local Floridians. Actually, they will go and book rooms on Walt Disney World property in order to kind of seek refuge and shelter on Walt Disney World outside of their own homes dotted all across the state. So they were really kind of booked up for this. I know they had stopped advanced reservations at one point in order to allow for walk-ups, and also too, Walt Disney World themselves put up some of their cast members that were, working at these resort areas, whether it be inside the resorts or the parks and so forth. They put them up in rooms on resort property as well, paying them throughout. I believe they paid them straight for 72 hours for anybody who opted to work during this time and kind of to take care of the resort guests, obviously, but also take care of some of the other things that were taking place on property at the same time. So that was kind of extraordinary. And I just wanted to go ahead. Yeah. Also, too, you got some distinct character time as part of those cast members actually staying on property. So you see Edna here taking place in some games in the arcade at the All-Star Movie Resort here. I think this is Max, if I'm not mistaken, from the Jamboree. Yeah, he was having a good time, and You have just a bunch of very interesting character experiences where characters took some advanced time with the kids and so forth. And this is footage from Adventures in Design. Peter and Kitcher there doing always amazing work. They were staying at Saratoga.
You mean Ordinary Adventures?
Oh, what'd I say?
You said Adventures in Design.
Oh gosh. Oh yeah, Ordinary Adventures. I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh. Peter and Kitcher, I really do apologize. That was not my intention. No, Ordinary Adventures. Oh, I'm so sorry. You know what? You get into live space, you're going, you're thinking about all this kind of stuff. I do apologize. Ordinary Adventures were staying there with a few friends, both from the Five Flyers team. I think Danny was with them and stuff, and they were kind of staying together in the Saratoga Springs Resort. And they really, Disney took care of the people that were there. You could see some cornhole was going on right there. You could see the characters were really interacting with guests in the lobby areas and so forth. I mean, this was quite nice to see. I guess they also had, any of these resort areas, if they had, restaurant facilities, they were doing, discount meals for people staying on property. I think in the instance of the Contemporary, I think they were doing Chef Mickey's buffet, and usually that's like $60, but they were only charging $20 for the people actually staying there. A similar thing happened at Boma at Animal Kingdom Lodge. They were charging guests about $15 there for a buffet meal there as well. They really took care of guests. Also, Fort Wilderness, there was a bunch of people staying at those Fort Wilderness campgrounds, as they often do. They had people take their campers, RVs, and so forth, stage them over at the TTC, and put them in hotel rooms as well. So, Walt Disney World overall, I gotta be honest with you, it was really, really cool to see how well they took care of the guests that were actually on property. Took care of everyone that was on property. That includes cast members as well. They really did a good job, and I wanted to kind of highlight that because I thought it was, felt good. It felt good for Disney to do that, for sure.
Absolutely. Now, Captain John D brings up a great point, and I think this is worth discussing. He says, I know they take a lot of heat, but the vloggers documenting the Walt Disney World shutdown from resorts was great insight. Now, this is interesting because I have seen quite a bit of that on social media about these vloggers kind of taking a lot of heat. Like, hey, look, you know what? They're kind of clogging up a system. Like, if you don't have to be out and about, you shouldn't be out and about, right? So you're driving to these resorts, you're one more person on the freeways, you're kind of right. And there's this mindset that like this is sort of like unnecessary. Now, Captain John D is making the point, well, like it was kind of educational though. This whole process kind of taught people about like how, this whole process of what's going on with these shutdowns. It was really great insight. Where do you kind of stand with this, Vash, in terms of these vloggers kind of inserting themselves kind of in this this legitimately emergency situation? Is it insightful, educational? Is it problematic in the sense it might kind of it might cause unnecessary congestion? Where were you kind of at with that?
I'll say this. At first, I kind of had a more cynical eye towards this, let's say, because I was like, a lot of these vloggers seem to be capitalizing on the moment. But to their credit, apparently a lot of them were in town legitimately for Epcot's 40th anniversary. They had made these reservations months in advance. And to be fair to them, the reason why they didn't cancel, many of these didn't cancel their resort stays was because, up until the point they actually made contact with Florida, a lot of these preview maps of where the hurricane was actually going to go, these kind of, preliminary or image trajectories, let's say, were suggesting that it was going to bypass the Orlando area and not actually affect them. So a lot of them just went forward and still stayed on Walt Disney World property. And they document it. They do what vloggers do. They get content. And look, I get it. I understand how that can be perceived. But a lot of the Floridian vloggers had a lot of restraint, I thought. They didn't actually stay on Walt Disney World property. I think Theme Park Express, paging Mr. Morrow actually made a point of this, saying, hey, look, a lot of Floridians from the coastal regions come to Walt Disney World property to actually seek shelter, right? And I don't want to take up those resources if I don't have to. However, you do have, like, Madame Lou, for instance. He has a place in Celebration, which apparently, I guess, isn't the nicest digs, but he opted to, use his DVC points to actually stay at Bay Lake Tower with, I believe, Bricky. They were going to be staying there for the 40th anniversary. And he even said it. He's like, hey, look, if it's lockdown type conditions, I kind of want to stay on property. I think that's a better way to go about it. And I would generally agree with him. So a lot of people just found themselves there. And didn't intend to take up any resources, so far in advance of this thing. They weren't booking, hotel rooms and staying on property just to document the hurricane. A lot of them were there for, kind of legit reasons, let's say. And a hurricane just happened to spring upon them. It's a little bit different. And so, I will say, I think I kind of agree with the people who were like, hey, I kind of liked how the vloggers documented this whole thing and kind of captured these circumstances which we would otherwise not be privy to. And so they appreciated the vlogger staying there and not the reverse. I think Walt Disney World News Today, he got some criticism for staying on property, I think, at Disney's, Animal Kingdom Lodge. And he was just saying, hey, look, listen, I have kind of an apartment, didn't feel quite safe. I stayed on Walt Disney World property, got the cheapest room I could out of, I think, the deluxes, right, with the lobby area that they can kind of document themselves. I don't know, I think it was okay. I think it was okay. I think a lot of those concerns that people had with the vloggers, maybe some of them are a little bit overblown. Obviously, some people are capitalizing on the storm. We've seen some clickbaity stuff on our YouTube feeds, right? But for the people actually staying on property, I think it's okay. It seems to be a kind of a tradition to stay, nestle themselves, let's say, within the confines and safety of Walt Disney World proper. That seems to be a thing. Some people chose to document that process. I think it was our buddy Sean Raking the Mouse, right? I believe his better half said, hey, I actually appreciate this. And I tend to agree. I like how they documented this because, hey, I would have never been able to relay some of those stories that I did before of some of the great work that Walt Disney World was doing without them.
Yeah, here's my thing. It really all depends on kind of a case-by-case basis, right? Like, if you already have a room all set months in advance, there's no obligation just because you're a vlogger to cancel your room reservation. I mean, they have just every bit of right to keep the reservation like a regular guest would. So there's no problem there. And if they want to document the situation while they're there, great. Now, Tom's situation with WDWNT, you said he has a little apartment, and he legitimately did not feel safe. So he booked the room at the Animal Kingdom Lodge, right? Okay, that's also, I think, a fair thing to do. I know people don't like Tom, and I know they give him a lot of crap and whatever. And I don't agree with Tom on a lot, but look, he didn't feel safe in his apartment. It was a safety issue, so he decided to book a room at the hotel. And I see nothing wrong in that either. My only quarrel, my only beef with any kind of vlogger situation is if you're making the room specifically just to get footage and monetize the hurricane, basically. I think that's a ball bag move. I got to be honest. But if you already have a room there, cool. You have every right to keep that room and stay. In Tom's situation, he didn't feel safe in his apartment. What do you want the guy to do? You know what I'm saying? I mean, he didn't feel safe. He's protecting him and his family. I respect that. You know what I'm saying? So he did what he had to do, and he booked a room at the Animal Kingdom Lodge. Hey, in those situations, it's all good. But if you're just booking a room just to monetize the hurricane, I don't know. That's a douchey move, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I do agree. And a lot of the Floridian vloggers didn't.
Exactly.
they didn't book rooms for that specific reason, because I think a lot of them understood the dynamics that were going on there. I think it was Tom and I think a couple others who said that they didn't feel quite safe, so they just went to those rooms and just kind of stayed on property while this whole thing blew over. I guess it's called the ride out crew is what they call the
the ride out crew.
The cast members doing this. That's pretty
Awesome.
cool. I did not know the terminology. It's kind of a cool thing, and if you want to see some amazing vlogs capturing some of this stuff, Tom has some kind of long format videos on Walt Disney World News Today that are pretty cool, pretty interesting to watch. Definitely, have them on the background, get some commentary. Very, very cool stuff there. But hey, Bricky, and what is it? The Daily, Adam the Woo. Those vlogs are quite cool. Hey Bricky for sure. His editing style, his music choices, and so forth. They kind of put you in this kind of dreamscape, and it's pretty awesome content, I will say. Some of the others can get a little clickbaity, but there are definitely some noteworthy vloggers to watch if you guys want to watch any of this documentation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Captain John D says, Smiley Josh taking advantage of those post-Ian photo ops. Daddy's got to flash those veneers. Oh, you're absolutely right, Captain John D. He wouldn't miss that opportunity.
He's
No,
right there at
sirree.
Magic Kingdom now, isn't he? It's a little interesting.
Okay,
What does
so we got
Vincent have here?
We got BJ Vincent here saying, hey, everyone. What's going on, man? What's going on? It's good to see you again, BJ. It's always good to see you in the chat. He says, maybe with Epic Universe's terrible damage where a lot of things need to be replaced, but hopefully they will improve the drainage to the theme parks for future storms. Yeah, you know what? That's a great point, BJ. I think, and we touched upon that earlier in the stream, but Walt Disney World, when they built it, and to Dre's point, I mean, Dre, to his credit, he brought this up. They took a lot of care in regards to that drainage system when they built Walt Disney World, right, in 1971. And maybe that same care, and I'd be willing to bet that same care wasn't put into building the Universal Orlando Resort, right? It just wasn't. I mean, and that's not a knock on Universal. I mean, I don't think the current Disney parks, like, the new Shanghai one and all that, I don't think they put as much love into these new resorts like Roy did for Walt Disney World. So I'm not like knocking Universal, but yeah, I don't think as much thought went into this stuff when they built these Universal parks. So they did take a lot more hits in regards to flooding and what have you. This might be a lesson learned for Universal. They're building a brand new park, really kind of a brand new resort. Now's the time, Universal, to kind of like maybe alter the plan a little bit, and kind of, as Vader would say,
I am altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further.
Maybe we should pray. Maybe we should alter a little bit. I do agree with that. I know they had a drainage plan. I think Bio Reconstruct actually linked to a video that actually went over the drainage plan for Epic Universe. Man, us theme park guys are crazy. But they went over the drainage plan. I believe that was approved 7 months ago or something like that. Might want to update that just a little bit in order to take in some tropical storms because, oh man, drainage seems to be an issue. Now, to Walt Disney World's credit, I mean, they got the guy that assisted with the construction and management of the Panama Canal to actually do a lot of their water waves on Walt Disney World property. That's where you get the water bridge and some unique stuff. They were dealing with water as it went through the Everglades, that kind of thing, as it was very any mismanagement could be very, very impactful to the Floridian ecology. So that was kind of an important thing there. But, you hear about like Spaceship Earth, for example, like I guess to keep rain from dripping on guests, outside of that structure, right? They have a very intricate system of drainage pipes and so forth that kind of absorb that water and take it out to, World Showcase Lagoon. Some really kind of cool stuff as part of the construction for that resort property in some of those distinct locations, and even the modern Disney company, like I said, I don't think it's taking it that seriously anymore, which is a shame.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like the Three Little Pigs, the stick house, the brick house, and right, and it's the same kind of idea,
Yeah, a little bit,
like, right,
a little bit.
Like how much you put into it initially is how much you're going to get out of it when you need to. And at the end of the day, if any of these executives by chance come across this, it's always cheaper to build it right the first time. It might be expensive initially, it might be front loaded for sure, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper than having to go in there and fix it later. So you're better off doing it primo initially. And we've learned that lesson here in Anaheim with DCA 1.0. That was $1 billion fixer-upper. So
that is actually for sure. That is actually for sure. No question. Matthew Burr. Yeah, Magic Kingdom was built 14 feet above original elevation to reduce the risk of flooding, if I remember correctly. I think the bigger reason, and I think Captain John D, featured it, the utilidors and that kind of underground system of tunnels and that distinct network for that park. That was more what it was really about. However, you're not you're not wrong. There are some distinct advantages that come with building your park on the second level, and one of those is that the natural water level, and water pooling and so forth, like the flood management that goes along with that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And Disney Fan 55 says the cheap comes out expensive. Exactly right. It does. Exactly right. It costs you more in the long run. It's like look, it's like car insurance, right? It's like, yeah, it's tempting to cheap out and get like the crap insurance because it's less every month, to shell out. But man, when you, God forbid, knock on wood, if you ever get in a car accident, you're gonna want that nicer insurance if you can afford it, because I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Same kind of idea.
Same kind of idea. Now, over this weekend here, we did experience one big loss to our theme park world here. Want to go ahead? Yeah, there you go. KiteTails last day on Friday. Oh boy. This is
pour one out for KiteTails, y'all.
Pour one out for the KiteTails. Pour one out for KiteTails for sure. May you may these inflatable creatures never make landfall in this way again. It's kind of crazy. I mean, from what I understand, it tells you a lot, right? Where this show that was apparently dreamt up as part of the 50th anniversary didn't even last the entire 50th anniversary. Obviously, it goes on for 18 months, and it was stopped right shy, which, by the way, a day before the new fiscal year. That tells you they didn't even want to put this on the balance sheet for 2023. That's just basically what that tells you. I guess guest surveys came back and they weren't distinctly favorable. And then you have the operators of these things going, I'm not going to fish these things out of trees again. There you go. Last day of KiteTails. Damn shame.
The landings are freaking hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. I think there'd be like an area like out of sight of guests that they can do that. It's crazy to me. They just do it like right there in the open. It's like look at that.
I don't know. And it's interesting because it's like you're doing it, on these kind of concrete areas with these sharp edges and so forth. You would think that would do a good bit of damage over time, increase the wear and tear on these inflatables themselves with these kites or whatever. You'd think, but oh boy. Yeah. It's yeah, you will be missed. You will be missed. Yeah. The greatest theme park show ever, actually.
Ever? No, absolutely. It's up there with all the greats. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Fantasmic World of Color blows them out of the water.
Out of the water, no pun intended. And down below we have our brother, Mr. Family Man 23. And George, what is going on, sir? We do miss you, sir. He says, what's up, my brother? Sorry I couldn't be there. That damn show has 9 lives. Yes, it does. KiteTail has 9 lives, but it just hit the 9th one and it's gone. That's gone.
It is gone. It is. That's it. Yeah. Theme park casuals sad about KiteTails. Should have let them go in the hurricane. Yeah, well, that would be an interesting tax write-off, right? Oh well, we gotta recover our losses. We lost our kites. But I guess they announced the they announced the ending of that show beforehand. But Bob Chapek is like, that one got away. That one got away for sure.
That would have been an opportunity though. Like for people staying at like one of these Animal Kingdom hotel, like the Animal Kingdom Lodge.
Yeah.
If they did that somehow, if they put all these kites out there in the open field, and they just had like a moment where they let them all go right in the middle of the hurricane. Oh man, I would watch the hell out of that. That'd be funny as
Yeah, that'd be something. That would be something. You could tie them off to the side of these hotels, and you could see the storm surges, right? You could see the wind patterns and so forth with these these creatures. That's something. I like Disney Fan 55's comment here. I wish that it happened to the barges. Yeah, right. I know.
A lot of people do. I'm telling you, a lot of people do.
I think I have Bella in here, and unfortunately, to give you, just to update you on the barge watch, still there as of today. Dang shame. Some people were saying, if there's one thing, it's these barges, but they barged into our lives and they're still there. What? Go ahead.
No, I was just say the hurricane had one job, right?
One job. Yeah, I know.
And
that's terrible.
And right here we got Mr. Theme Park Wizard saying, "Bring KiteTails to DCA." Oh man, Wizard, I hope you're joking.
Well, the only place they could possibly do it is in the Pixar Pier Lagoon. I think that's what it's called now. And no, that's not going to happen. We have our own problems there. We don't need to add on jet skis to it.
No, I'm good on the KiteTails. I am way good on the KiteTails. Now DCA does need more entertainment though. I would love to see. There were rumors a long time ago. I think it was from Mice Age, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong though. Don't quote me. Yep. But they were kind of kicking the tires on a Marvel themed parade over at DCA. That would be very interesting if done right. That could be kind of cool, actually.
I think so. That would be kind of cool because man, there's so many different distinct characters you can actually include in that. You could probably, possibly include scenes from major franchises. You can have the original Avengers out there. You could have the, Thanos and his crew out there. You could have the Guardians of the Galaxy obviously gets a float. Yeah, there's stuff you could do, especially now. It would be interesting for sure.
That would be cool. That would be very cool. Actually, one cool float would be. Go ahead and share my screen.
Sure.
Wanda eating ice cream.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. That's entertainment all by its lonesome.
There we go. There we go. So,
Very
but no,
cool.
DCA definitely needs more entertainment. And we got here Michael Meets Mouse. Also, I think this show should teach us that you can't just slap on a popular IP and expect it to be received at the quality is poor. Yeah, that's a great point, Michael. And we've seen that example many, many times, where like, just because it has a popular IP to it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be successful. If it's not a good product, it's not a good product. We've even seen unpopular IPs that people are kind of over, like Avatar, do very well in the theme park space because the theme park thing was very, very well done, So it's interesting, And then we have great IP like Monsters, Inc., and they kind of did like a mediocre ride, very mid ride over at DCA, and it's never has more than a 10-minute wait. So it just all depends on that execution, 100%.
It really does. It really does. It's you can take a great concept and really kind of short it in the ways you described and some of these amazing IPs that we've had included in the parks before. I think overlaying the Incredibles in the way they have to the contemporary, I think people would add that to the list and so forth. Or you can take some IPs, it's like, ooh, how is this going to fit? I remember for years leading up to the opening of Pandora, people were like, how is Avatar going to fit in Disney Animal Kingdom? This is a travesty. This is a joke. This is whatever. And come to find out, they did it really, really well. You just never know.
You just never know. And Mr. Theme Park Wizard said, "But seriously, I want Paint the Night." Yeah, I would love Paint the Night to come back as well. And that's a DCA parade. I know it premiered initially at Disneyland, but with all the Pixar represented in that parade, it just feels more DCA to me. I would love to see that go to DCA and maybe just have the Main Street Electrical Parade over at Disneyland. And I think it would be good. I think our friends in Florida would have issue with that, though. We're getting a little greedy with the nighttime parades at that point. But,
well, yeah, I mean, Fantasmic has now switched to a weekends only schedule, and they haven't even gotten Fantasmic. Which, by the way, they didn't even premiere the reopening date of Fantasmic at the D23 Expo. They didn't even talk about it. I thought they were going to include the reopening date for Fantasmic at Disney's Hollywood Studios as part of that park's presentation. Didn't even do that. So yes, I do agree with you, Michael Meets Mouse. Be fair to Florida is exactly correct. Come on, give them the date already. Jeez,
come on. And then Mr. Theme Park Wizard says, "Ice cream, chillin' ice cream." That's Blackpink. Oh yeah, our friend, our buddy Wizard loves Blackpink, and especially rosé, right? You
Well, I mean, it's rosé, I suppose. So come on. I can't argue with that too much.
Come on.
Question from Captain John D. Why don't you go ahead and read off there, OG?
Captain John D says, "Do you think Encanto IP is on par with Coco? Not sure it's as long-lasting for park attractions." I actually liked both movies quite a bit, actually. I didn't think I was going to like Encanto, and I actually did. That's a tough one, John D. Wow, that's tough. It's hard to kind of predict this stuff. I would probably put Coco a notch above, though. Coco is a special movie. It really is. Coco, man, that hits you in the feels. Like, there's certain Disney movies and Pixar movies, right?
Yeah.
That really just hit you on an emotional level unlike anything else. Bambi's one of them. Lion King's one of them. Toy Story 3 is one of them. Coco was one of them. Coco just hits you in the gut, man. that is a movie. So, I don't know.
I do agree. I mean, Coco. Mi familia. Yeah, I mean, it does hit you right in the feels, though, for sure. And man, there's something special about that movie. And I do agree with you. Encanto at this point is on the same level. I don't know. It's got those great songs, though. That really does kind of keep it up there in the public zeitgeist, let's say. However, if you heard Chapek at a recent quarterly earnings report, he talked about Encanto being one of their premier franchises for the Walt Disney Studios, animation studio. And that means franchises. That tells me maybe more movies on the way to really kind of ingrain it into the into public consciousness even more than it exists today. So I would agree with you. Coco at this point a little bit better, but there might be an Encanto 2 and 3. Who knows? I don't know what they're cooking up right now. But if that's the case, then obviously in terms of relevance, it might have a longer life just from that aspect.
And the great thing about Coco and Encanto, like, Spanish culture is such a great it just works so well with Disney, right? Because you have it's a very colorful culture with the clothing and everything, and the music is so beautiful, right? It really does fit the Disney culture very well. It's like a match made in heaven. And I think that if they do an Encanto attraction or a Coco attraction, I think either one of those, if they do it right, obviously it's always about execution, but I think either one of those would make a phenomenal attraction. Like I said, they're very colorful worlds. The music is awesome in both movies. I think it would be really, really something special. I really, really do.
No, I think so. I think any one of those worlds, like you said, I mean, you could really do some really cool, rich theming there to really kind of, bring out the, very intricate cultural aspects of those films to life. Obviously, Coco's kind of made for it. I mean, the World of the Dead is just, I mean, it's insane. I mean, it's crazy to fly through an environment like that. Oh, I mean, count me in. I'm booking tickets today, kind of thing. Whereas in Kanto, and they kind of talk about it, right? They talk about how it would be more of a walkthrough experience through the Madrigal house, if I'm not
Or
mistaken.
Madrigal, I think. Is it Madrigal? I don't.
I thought it was Madrigal, but we might be wrong. The famous enchanted house from Encanto, right? That is the setting for that movie. Be kind of a walkthrough thing, and I do kind of agree with that. Now we might, like I said before, if an Encanto 2 comes out that kind of expands out this world and presents an environment by which you can actually ride in, well, then the sky's the limit for sure.
No, absolutely. Now I'm going to share my screen in just a moment. Because I want to show the audience the potential that an Encanto ride, because our friend Alia here mentions the different rooms, right?
Yep.
And so she mentions the different rooms, and there is an attraction in Hong Kong.
Oh, that's it.
Called Mystic Manor, and you go through this kind of like this very magical. It's not haunted. It's more like this magical, mystical kind of home. And this would be an amazing. You know what? Before I do that, though, let me just go ahead and this is from Attractions 360, so you guys can see that. Definitely give them some love, by the way. They're huge supporters of the channel. They're awesome, dude. I love it, Attractions 360. But check this out. And you go, it's basically the same idea. Like you go through these different rooms, and the technology is amazing. And you can incorporate something like this into an Encanto ride that would blow freaking minds. Can you imagine this?
Yeah.
With all the magic in that movie, how incredible this would be. I mean, build this in DCA, Disney. Come on, Chapek.
And as Disney fan 55 points out, not home but casita. Yes, I do agree with you. And a kind of a mystic manor experience where you're going through the various different rooms and the different environments that are embedded in those rooms, in that casita, that magical dwelling from Encanto. That could be really, really cool. I mean, honestly. I mean, we've seen it in Mystic Manor, and that's with kind of a generic kind of storyline or original storyline that they kind of dreamt up there. You put an IP on that, and you have that kind of emotional connection to a lot of the characters within there. The songs obviously are great. Could end up being phenomenal. Not gonna lie, could end up being phenomenal.
No, absolutely. And then our friend BJ Vincent is adding, yeah, exactly. If Disney does an Encanto ride and or Coco ride, please make it a decent ride on par to Hong Kong Disney's Mystic Manor and or Tokyo Disney's Enchanted Tale of Beauty and the Beast. Yeah. Both of those attractions are absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal. And from what we're hearing, again, this is rumor, but from what we're hearing, we're going to get the same animatronic tech they use for Belle in that Tokyo Disney's attraction for Tiana
Adventure.
Right. Which hopefully that's true, because that's a very impressive animatronic. Hopefully that's true.
Hopefully it's we just don't get a whole bunch of mist, but we will see. It looks quite interesting, and man, I know I have problems with that what if segment, but oh man, to do a Coco and Encanto thing, that would be pretty killer. Not gonna lie.
It'd be pretty killer. And I think for California, like our resort here, Disneyland Resort, I think like, and Theme Park Wizard mentioned it here. Let me go ahead and bring up his comment because, where'd it go? Maybe I missed it. Here it is. He said Spanish works great with DCA. He's right on that. Like Spanish culture in California are, it's so tied together, and it just seems like the perfect park to have like a little Spanish area would be perfect. You can have Encanto, you can have Coco, you can have these really great like little Mexican villages or what have you. with these great little eateries, and you can bring in the cuisine. You can, it'd be such a great little atmosphere for that park. I would absolutely love that. And you can pretty much bulldoze that whole back area with Goofy Sky School and the Paradise Grill and all that. Bulldoze all that, man. Put a nice little village in there, nice little, little attraction, dark ride for one of these movies. Oh man, chef's kiss. I'd be absolutely beautiful. Perfect.
I don't know, man. The Paradise Garden Grill area, that's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of grown on me. I would be kind of sad to see it go. I know it's kind of crazy because I remember when that was what's it, Burger Invasion, all
God,
that, the McDonald's and oh God, it's so embarrassing
ugly,
even to say
ugly.
that. The adjacent shop or restaurant was Pizza Mau Mau. That was the the kind of adjacent restaurant. Oh, the buns. But Malaburritos. Okay, that's a whole nother story. But these were horrible locations when they opened up in 2001, folks. So don't get me wrong. However, they have kind of, ever since the 2012 redo, they have blossomed into, some really kind of underrated, beautiful areas of the park. I'd be sad to see it go, but I do agree with you. If we can get a Coco or Encanto experience out of it, it'd be phenomenal. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, well, hey, look, we if Disneyland Forward gets approved, which it's looking like it might, with all these kind of various elements.
Yes.
But if it gets approved, we might have a little more land to work with, for DCA, and you can keep the Paradise Grill and maybe expand over there by the Pixar Hotel. We'll see. I don't know. Hopefully it happens, and hopefully we get that little Spanish area. I think it'd be pretty cool. Disney Fan 55 says, "Rest in peace, Malibu." You know what?
Yeah.
I have to disagree. First of all, I only went on that ride once, and I'm sitting there, and I'm not like a super thrill junkie. So like I was like clenching. I was so nervous that whole time sitting there, like just waiting to shoot up. Oh God, it was horrible. And I hated that attraction. And then on top of that, it's uglier than sin. It really was ugly. So I shed no tears when they got rid of Maliboomer. I shed no tears when they got rid of that ugly oh man, I'm gonna make Showcase mad, but the ugly dinosaur hut.
Oh, don't do it! Don't do it, OG! Don't do this! Gonna go full balls to the wall here. Let's
Here we
see.
go.
What's it got? Oh, no, not good. Not good.
Not good. Yeah, no, I hated that like dino sunglass hut. That was hideous. I'm so glad they got rid of that. That and the Maliboomer aesthetically were just really, really big eyesores for that park.
I can guarantee you, and Disney Fan just chimed in again, I can guarantee you she was joking, and she was. Trust me, there is no love lost for the Maliboomer. Okay, that was a terrible eyesore. I think it was like one of the highest points in the entire resort when it was up. I mean, this thing was monstrous. You could see it for miles. Not a great way to, I don't know, showcase your incredible creative talent, Imagineering-wise, with this whole thing, with the kind of off-the-shelf ride like this. It not good. Also, it was very noisy as well. You could probably, understand because it shot you off. Exactly. Look, Showcase, it wasn't. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. It wasn't. It wasn't what you are thinking. It was not animatronic dinos. It was. Let's see. It was like the Sunglass Hut or something like that.
Yeah, it was Sunglass Hut, and they repainted that thing like 15 different times. It was pink, and then it was green.
Yeah, here we go.
All right, let me go ahead and share your screen. Yeah, see,
that's it right there. It was. God. It was not good, Showcase. I know you are partial to the dinos. You are
dino aficionado.
Dino aficionado, dino connoisseur, dino expert for the channel. I understand that. In this case, I was happy to see it go. It just accentuated the the cheapness factor when it came to DCA 1.0. I mean, to be honest with you,
wasn't good. Yeah.
It wasn't good. And it's kind of weird too because people have this kind of nostalgia for DCA 1.0. I know I haven't in a few instances, which is it's really bizarre because I know how bad that park was, but even I miss the Masaka and some of the other things that were if you know you know that were kind of part of it. But and you can even see in that shot right there, you could see one more time. You can see the burger invasion right there. You see that?
Oh yeah, that's another one.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
There. Yesterland. Gotta love Yesterland for the photos. But Burger Invasion, that what I was talking about. It's like it's in my brain. Yeah, exactly. Theme park casual. Masaka forever for sure. I know it's weird. I have a little nostalgia for it too, but no, it was objectively bad park. bad way to go about that concept. Now, OG, you recently had a video, by the way, going over the concept of California within California, the Disney California Adventure, the name and so forth. I wanted to go ahead and expand on that just a little bit if I could.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's set the table for people who haven't watched the video. Set the table a little bit with what that video, because it just dropped a few hours ago.
Yeah.
Set the table and then expand on it.
So there was a Cineblend article that was released, arguing whether or not the name of California Adventure was apt for that park, right? And it was kind of, I don't know, like it sounded just from the title that it was kind of attacking the name. But honestly, when you get into the meat and potatoes of the article, it was actually defending the name Disney California Adventure and thought that, this park was still consistent with that kind of California Adventure promise, let's say, that's included with the name Disney California Adventure. The only thing he was arguing for actually was the distinction between Disney's California Adventure and Disney California Adventure, and he was arguing that it was like it should be Disney's take on a California theme park, and I think that was one of the reasons why they switched the name. You see, it's not Disney's land, right? It's not Disney's take on, farmland or acreage or parcels, right? It's Disneyland, with it being a new entity or new product presented to the public, right? It's its own thing, and so to kind of better reflect the positioning of Disney's California Adventure, they switched it to Disney California Adventure. It's its own thing. It's not a Disney's take on a California theme park. It is its own theme park themed to California. It's a different kind of take on it, and it's a very kind of subtle change to reflect that. But I don't know. I think Disney California Adventure, I think that's a good name for it. I think it's positioned well. And but I thought you brilliantly pointed out that it's still, 2001 DCA was very much like Disney's take on California icons as they exist in the real world, and it's just not. That wasn't a great way to go about it. But to kind of give you a California feeling through, walking through that theme park and the way they've done, taking you to a distinct town and place with places like Buena Vista Street, Cars Land, and even large swaths of previously the Condor Flats area. Now it's Grizzly Flats Airfield.
Yeah.
It does a phenomenal job at that. Honestly, and it's a much better take, and I think, bringing in San Francisco and so forth, I think it's going to be even, it will be consistent with that philosophy that's been developing ever since 2012. So, I like the future of this park, really, I do.
Yeah, and really they kind of started it when they did Grizzly Peak area. Now, Grizzly Peak isn't necessarily a Disney IP, but it's sort of that same kind of general idea of taking a very California thing, which would be like the redwoods that you would find like in Northern California, and sort of reimagining that into something very exclusive for the park, which is Grizzly Peak. It's very California though in its appearance and everything, but it's a made up thing. It doesn't exist in California, and they're kind of doing the same stuff throughout the park, just kind of utilizing IP. So Buena Vista Street is really just kind of an amalgamation of like how Walt maybe would have perceived Los Angeles. So it's kind of the city as kind of seen through that Walt Disney lens.
Yeah.
Then you have like a seaside pier, right? Which is very California, but it's seen through like that Pixar lens, right? With Pixar Pier. So it's all very California locales, but it just kind of takes this Disney kind of twist to it. And it creates a situation where you can't get that anywhere else. And the original kind of approach of having this more realistic take on the state was a flawed one, because like I said in the video, you're never going to compete with the real Pacific Ocean. You're never going to have a body of water in that land that's going to be as magnificent as the Pacific Ocean. You're never going to build a Golden Gate Bridge as amazing as the real Golden Gate Bridge. So why even try to do that? Do something unique to Disney, and that's what they're doing. I think it's a smart idea.
Yeah, you know, there's that famous story about the meeting over there at that Winter Lodge with Michael Eisner and Marty Sklar and Paul Pressler and I think it was a couple of the other notables around that time. And they were trying to go over the themes that would incorporate this second gate for Disneyland after Westcott kind of blew up in their face. And you know, coming to the conclusion of California, the idea was, well, you know, we're trying to attract a new tourist-driven population, right? Rather than the local-driven population that we've had before. What do tourists do? They not only hit Disneyland, but they hit other areas of Southern California. Let's just bring that all in one park and keep them on property, you know, in that way. And like you said, very flawed idea just from jump. You're never going to be able to compete with amazing California landmarks like the Golden Gate Bridge or the Pacific, you know, the Pacific Ocean. So to take a very unique and you know and kind of an interpretation, a Disney interpretation on all these things, like you said, I think you did it beautifully. You know, Walt's kind of vision of a 1920s 1930s Los Angeles in a very similar manner that he would have viewed Marceline, Missouri, you know, for Disneyland's kind of main entrance corridor there. You know, that kind of version of Marceline didn't exist. Like, it never existed, right? And a lot of those, you know, architectural pieces even go to like Fort Collins, Colorado, and some other places. So it's kind of this hodgepodge. And I think they adapted that kind of mentality, that philosophy, beautifully for Disney California Adventure just in general. And you know, I think they've kept that quite well. I think the only outlier, the big outlier, is kind of Adventures Campus. However, you broke down that video quite well, how there are various elements within Adventures Campus that brings it back home to California in a really nice way. You're going to have to go looking for them, but they're there. I love Showcase, though.
Let's see.
Well, to go off of Alia's points, so some on Diz Twitter want to change the name of the park. If so, to what? Showcase. Coming in with a great response. Disney IP goes here, land. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like that, right? It's look, but I think though they've incorporated these IPs very intelligently, right? I think they've done them very, very well, all things considered, and I think it does make for a, you know, cohesive California experience, let's say.
Yeah. Well, and to answer Alia's question too, like the biggest thing that I hear from the community, and I've heard this for years, is that they just want like an overall adventure park, Disney adventure park, basically. Just take the California out and just have it in an adventure park. I don't know. For me personally, that seems a little generic. It's like a Wally World kind of generic name, in my opinion. I don't really like that. I much would rather, I prefer the California theme, because I think California is kind of a unique state. It has just about everything. I mean, when you're talking about, like, you know, you got mountains, beaches, Hollywood, there's forests, there's deserts. I mean, there's just about everything you can imagine here in this state. It's very diverse, both in its geography, but also with its people and cultures and food. There's a lot to work with the California theme. The theme was never the issue, in my opinion, with DCA. The issue with DCA was DCA 1.0 and that execution. And they're starting to slowly now sort of tweak that and make it work. But yeah, the California theme was never the problem, in my opinion. It really wasn't.
I kind of, you know, the dedication speeches, I think, were, you know, captured this best. And I'll read two of them off here, because there was the original dedication by Michael Eisner and then the rededication by Bob Iger back in 2012. To all who believe in the power of dreams, welcome. Disney's California Adventure, as it was known back then, opens its golden gates to you. Here we pay tribute to the dreamers of the past, the native people, explorers, immigrants, aviators, entrepreneurs, and entertainers who built the Golden State. And we salute a new generation of dreamers who are creating the wonders of tomorrow, from the silver screen to the computer screen, from the fertile farmlands to the far reaches of outer space. Disney's California Adventure celebrates the richness and diversity of California, its land, its people, its spirit, and above all, the dreams that it continues to inspire. Now, if we're being honest, maybe the park has kind of moved away from that, which I could see why they wanted to rededicate it. But it still has, some of this, and it still has, I think that definitely its aviation spirit as it lives on in soaring around the world. I believe that's the new name now. I think some of these things are consistent. Farmland, not so much, as it was replaced with Cars Land, but here's a rededication, and let's see if some of these things that we've heard might be included in California Adventure in the future here are consistent with this philosophy. To all who come to this place of dreams, welcome. Disney California Adventure celebrates the spirit of optimism and the promise of endless opportunities ignited by the imagination of daring dreamers such as Walt Disney and those like him who forever changed and was forever changed by the Golden State. The unique place embraces the richness and diversity of California, its land, its people, its stories, and above all, the dreamers it continues to inspire. So a little bit more broad, a little bit more general. But I think, like I said before, Avengers Campus is the only thing that's pretty IP inspired. Don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of California Adventure, I would argue, is kind of, I think it does well to reflect those dedication speeches. Again, you can argue as more IP is imbued in this park, how much longer it will stay consistent with that. But I think they've done a pretty good job integrating these stories into its kind of into this California sandbox.
Yeah, no, 100%. And Robert White says the budget was a problem. I think that was part of the problem, Robert. But a big budget doesn't necessarily mean a quality product. And I'm gonna kind of digress a little bit from theme parks for a second to kind of make my point. Rings of Power, from what I understand, is a very, very expensive show. Okay.
Oh, it's very expensive.
Very
it's very expensive.
And I watched the first episode yesterday. Now, I only saw the first episode, so I'm not trying to make a definitive statement about the show, but I saw the first episode yesterday, and I absolutely hated it. I hated it. It put me to sleep. Now, they spent a lot of money on that show. It's a very expensive show, but it still doesn't, it's not a good show. So, yes, Robert, budget matters, but it's how you use the budget. It's not just about just throwing money at something. I mean, from what I understand, even Rocket Rods had a pretty pricey budget because of the tires and all that stuff. So it cost a lot of money. Yeah. But it wasn't a great ride though, you know what I'm saying? So budget isn't always the thing. Hey, look, on the flip side, Mission Breakout was a fairly inexpensive thing to do. Retheming Tower of Terror didn't break Disney's bank, and it turned out to be one of the greatest things that the park has. It's fantastic. So money matters, but not always.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And go back and see some of those concepts for Disney California Adventure, as it was being developed as a project, not its final execution, but just as it was being developed. And you'll find some of those ideas, even if they had gotten the budget to do them, weren't that great either. So was, it's definitely something about execution. Even if you have all the money in the world, doesn't necessarily amount to the best park if your idea where your starting point is a little bit flawed, which California Adventures 1.0 was.
Yeah, no, 100%. And Showcase here says Grizzly Peak is probably the most California adventure land. Yeah, it is. It's and that's the interesting thing about Grizzly Peak is it's not even a real place in California. It's a made up thing. It's a made up thing, a made up mountain, a made up area, but it really does encapsulate the feeling and the energy of like Big Sur and places like that in California. It really does beautifully. It's a beautiful area.
Yosemite, I mean, the way that, oh man, the Imagineers are really clever in this, by the way. The way that kind of hugs the side of the, the Grand Californian, the way it does, and it kind of it creates this kind of pseudo berm because of the structure, obviously, but it just blends beautifully with the land around it. I mean, it is just done unbelievably well. Just really phenomenal stuff, honestly. And it's really blossomed into one of the best places of that park. If I'm speaking honestly. But I ask you this, Showcase. Now I know you say that you are surprised that Grizzly River Run hasn't gotten a more definitive IP theme, and I will agree that is kind of surprising given Disney's track record, especially as it relates to California Adventure. However, what if that theme that they were going to get was the Country Bears? Would you be, would you have an issue with that? Would you welcome that kind of IP integration? I want to ask Showcase that question. I'll give him a little bit of time to respond. OG, what do you got?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would love that. I think the Country Bears, oh my gosh, that's like they're perfect for that mountain. And then you can incorporate some of their music in there. So you would add not just kinetic energy, animatronics, but you'd also add the great music along the way. It really is the perfect addition to Grizzly Peak.
I'd love for them to take like a vacation hoedown type take on it, where they're vacationing to Yosemite, or Grizzly Peak, right? And they're climbing the mountain in various areas, and they're getting all the kind of hijinks. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, 100%. And our buddy Casual says, as long as it honors the Country Bears, not a cynical hip dig. Yeah, oh God. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Casual. Hit the nail on the head, brother. Like that, I hate that stuff. That like real meta hip. Nah. Honor the characters, make them fit into the mountain and really do it well in a really quality way. Showcase says Country Bears could work since they were originally supposed to be in California. There you go.
That's true. They were part of the Sierra Mountain Project, right? The Sierra kind of the ski resort concept, and that was going to be in California. And unfortunately, that didn't happen, and they integrated the show as an opening day attraction for Walt Disney World. Sometimes that happens. Showcase. I like where your head's at. I like that. Yeah.
And our friend Alia says, is it connected with Brother Bear? Because that was not a huge hit. It seems not related to an IP. Well, it's kind of weird, Alia. There is an area across from, in that there is a certain section of the Grizzly Peak area that is actually themed to Brother Bear.
Yes.
The
Redwood Creek Challenge Trail.
That's it. And that's all Brother Bear ever got. And that's probably all Brother Bear will ever get.
Yes.
They're never going to go further with the Brother Bear thing in that land. Like you said, Alia, it wasn't a hit movie, even though it was a great movie. I personally enjoyed Brother Bear, but it didn't do great. It wasn't a banger at the box office, and
no. And there were plans to integrate Brother Bear into, into Grizzly River Run more substantially, they were really going to do it, but obviously, as you brought up, Alia didn't make a lot of money at the box office. Not going forward with that, like a certain other movie, Lightyear. but Brother Bear, interesting. One of the very rare few times that Rick Moranis has actually come out of retirement in order to join any kind of film project. That was quite an interesting story to get him involved. Pretty cool.
Yeah. 100%. And Robert White is kind of going back to his comment about, budgets and what have you. He says, much like the Bourne Spectacular used a smaller budget than T2 3D at Universal Studios Florida, but was very effective. Just as good, possibly a tad better. Yeah, it's all about how you use it. And like, obviously, there's a certain threshold you have to meet. Obviously, you need a certain amount of money to be successful. But it's not the end all be all like people think. there are shows on TV with fairly small budget. Like if you were to take the budget for, say, Mandalorian, I know we're comparing apples and oranges to TV and movie, but let's just say you take Mandalorian's budget, right?
Sure.
And the product that we got with Mandalorian, and you compare that with the sequel trilogy. Well, I mean, the budget going into the sequel trilogy was way more than anything they spent on Mando.
Huge.
But you can't really argue that Mandalorian had a bigger effect, right? Like a bigger positive effect. Yep. Smaller budget, bigger impact. So that's another example.
And I'll tell you what, too. It's interesting you bring that up, OG, because I was listening to a recent recording with the Disney Dish podcast crew with Jim Hill and Len Testa, and they were talking about how Paris might be, they're not going forward with a Star Wars Galaxy's Edge as we have here in domestic parks, but they might be going forward with a concept that features a Star Wars concept that features the Mandoverse characters, because those are far more, or have been far more impactful on the kind of cultural zeitgeist than the sequel trilogy. There are definitely executives who believe that it's like, maybe we should move on from the sequel trilogy when it comes to our Star Wars product, especially as it is incorporated into these theme parks, and really move into the Mandoverse. That just goes to show you, it's sometimes you can have all the money in the world, like OG said, and sometimes you just don't hit that impact with the audience in quite the way that you were expecting. To bring it back to Universal just for a second, T2 3D, that was, that was expensive. Not going to say it wasn't, but it was probably less expensive than, Minions Mayhem or whatever that replaced it here in Universal Studios Hollywood. And that ride sucks. So you just never know. No, I'm joking. But I do miss T2 3D like a lot. That was awesome.
Cool.
But,
that was cool. Yeah. I gotta be honest, and here's my thing, and this is why I'm kind of rooting for Universal for Universal Comcast to buy Warner Brothers, is because one of my big issues with Universal is I'm not really into much of their IP right now, and they've gone super Minion heavy, and it's just like, man, I don't know, if they just had some stronger IP, I'd be way more into that. But Robert White says that T2 3D, $45 million for 12 minutes of screen time. Gotta love James Cameron.
Yeah, to get James Cameron on board at all, that's a fascinating thing too, right? A lot of times it's hard to get these original creatives back, and to do these theme park attractions. And some of his insights into how to do a Terminator 3D type show experience were just phenomenal. I mean, he really had some good instincts when it came to delivering his franchises into a theme park environment, not just for Terminator, obviously, but also for Pandora. So give it up to James Cameron. Good dude, but very expensive.
Yeah, I know. He's very expensive. Very expensive. Our friend BJ Vincent is saying, if anyone is interested, Poison Entertainment did a video about could Disney's California Adventure be fixed, which really made me appreciate DCA's original theming or attempt at theming. I got to check that out. I'm aware of Poison. I haven't seen much of his content, to be quite honest.
Is it Poseidon Entertainment?
Or is it Poseidon Entertainment?
I think it's Poseidon.
Poseidon.
But go ahead, OG. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I haven't seen much of his stuff, to be quite honest, but I will definitely check that one out. I gotta be honest, and I've said it many times, I don't watch a lot of theme park content. I do a lot more movie stuff, and like film and like nerd culture stuff. But I will definitely check out that video. I'm a huge DCA guy, so I'm curious. Have you seen that, Dre? I know you watch more park video stuff.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen Poseidon Entertainment's take on it. I know he comes at it from a standpoint where let's just be honest, he doesn't quite like current Disney management in regards to its parks, and he definitely comes at it with that bias a little bit. However, I'd be interested in what he has to say. Look, could a theme park around California in the way that it was originally envisioned be executed at a high level, even with more money? I mean, maybe it's possible, but I don't know. I just think there's limited upside when you look at, the future of this park, and future and expansion. That stuff matters,
Yeah.
For example, we were just talking about Hong Kong Disneyland and how, they had a parcel of land right adjacent to that park where they could have had a second gate and be able to expand there, and now that parcel is no longer available, and really kind of people are speculating what's going to happen with, Hong Kong Disneyland now that it only has about 1 or 2 places to expand outside of this recent Frozen edition. These things matter. So I wonder, could DCA's original theme work and all that? Possibly. But even if it did, where do you go from there? That's kind of my thing. Because, if you're using California architecture or landmarks or so forth, there's only so many of those that you can actually use.
Right. No, 100%. And actually kind of a question, kind of a call to action for the chat. Because BJ mentions Poseidon Entertainment, right? And I like when people bring up content creators that maybe my audience will enjoy. I like to definitely hey, check this out, check that out. If you guys in the chat, guys and gals, if you guys and gals have any, content creators that you watch that you think that we would enjoy, whether it be theme park or otherwise, even if it's just entertainment, like film and movie stuff, post it in the chat. We could talk about it because I like doing that because sometimes, I don't know, I come across these content creators and these new content creators randomly sometimes. And I'm like, wow, I wish I would have found out about this person years ago. They're freaking hilarious. Or they really give great insight, So if you got anyone in mind, put it in the chat and we'll talk about it.
Yeah. And we have a couple of content creators in the chat as well. Showcase of Wishes has done some stuff with his YouTube channel. Theme Park Casual, he's killing it. He is killing it with the vlogs and everything like that. His coverage not only on YouTube but on Twitter. Definitely check him out, both on his YouTube channel and his his Twitter profile, because it's pretty phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, no, he's great. But both gentlemen do fantastic content. Casual, Showcase. Really phenomenal stuff. Friends of the channel, family of the channel. Really support them. If you haven't checked them out on YouTube and on Twitter, definitely follow and subscribe to both gentlemen. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. But yeah, I like doing that sometimes. I like just kind of finding new creators and kind of it's fun for me. I'm constantly on the lookout. Robert White, do you think a third gate at Disneyland would hurt DCA? Okay, here we go. Robert's diving in now. Now we're rolling up. We're getting nerdy. Okay, so do you think a third gate at Disneyland would hurt DCA? Epic Universe has led Universal in constant upgrades to current Universal Orlando parks. DCA would need to be on par for a third gate to arrive. What are your thoughts on that, Dre? That's a fascinating question.
Well, I don't think it would hurt DCA. I don't think so. I mean, we still get. I mean, if you you kind of have to make the apples to apples comparisons, because the apples to oranges, when you're talking about Universal as compared to Disney and Disneyland, well, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's tough. Even Tokyo Disney Seas and Tokyo Disneyland in comparison to some of the other parks, it's a little bit different. But our best, I don't know, analogous or our best case of this happening is with Walt Disney World. And just because Animal Kingdom, let's say, opened, didn't mean that Disney's Hollywood Studios didn't get anything. It got a whole lot. It just got 2 new lands, for example, right? And that doesn't mean that Epcot has been left out of the loop. It has had some improvements over time to that park as well. I do think the kind of year-over-year expansions and additions, I think that would kind of probably go away a little bit as the new park would require its own development, and maybe that would affect Disneyland as well. But I don't think it would be forgotten. I don't think it would hurt it too badly. But, that's kind of why Disney at this point kind of wants to flesh out the existing properties first before expanding into a third gate. Get them in a place where, they are, they have drivers in terms of attendance when it comes to attractions and shows and so forth, things that can really hold their own, and then build a new gate. That's kind of the operating thought there. So if you look at it like that, I think DCA is going to be okay.
I think DCA would be okay as well. I mean, DCA has really set up. DCA has a lot of stuff in there now that people have kind of come to like just absolutely love, and that people would have, I think, a hard time separating themselves from. Like, for example, I think that Radiator Springs Racers, that's going to be hard for people to skip DCA and not do that. Most families love that attraction. Things even like these events like Oogie Boogie Bash, stuff like that. I think that these are things now that have really established DCA as kind of a must go to park when you're at the resort. And I think that it would be hard for families to sort of bypass some of that at this point. They become family favorites. But there is a little bit of a concern though. I mean, it depends too on the third park. Like if the third park is like a Westcott and it's like super like immersive and just incredible, and there's like, just it's crazy, like, theming. It's like on par with like, Disney Sea or whatever. Yeah, it's gonna make DCA look a little bad because I don't know. It's hard to say. It really is.
Well, okay, let's ask this question, because I think Tokyo Disney Resort, right? That's kind of the. I know. I just said don't make the comparison. I'm going to make the comparison, but I'll make it for this reason. Tokyo Disney Resort is kind of the resort we all kind of aspire to, right? I would love for Disneyland Resort to aspire to some of the things that we see out there in Tokyo, right? Tokyo is talking about. They're pretty close to getting it greenlit, from what I understand. It's been in development for a long time. Doing a third gate. And you have Tokyo Disneyland, you have Tokyo Disney Seas. What else is there? Tokyo Disney Air, Tokyo Disney Skies. I'm serious. That's where it's going.
Wow.
So, that's where Pandora would come from, right? That's where Star Wars would go, right? The skies, to go along with that theme.
Interesting.
Would Tokyo Disney Skies take away from Tokyo Disney Sea, Tokyo Disneyland? That's that question. And so that might give you insight into when a third gate is, closer to fruition to Disneyland, and DCA has had even more years to develop. That kind of might be, an interesting question to ask at that point.
Yeah, and one of the benefits that DCA has right now, one of the advantages DCA has over Disneyland is that you can actually, you can drink at Disneyland, but it's very far and few between. I think really, for most guests, it's just Oga's Cantina. Unless you're a Club 33 member, then you can drink at Club 33. But really, for just the regular average guest, it's just Oga's. That's it. DCA has that advantage where, like, if you want to have a cocktail or a beer, you got to go to DCA.
Sure.
Well, if you add a third park, they're going to have that park will not be a dry park. We know that. I mean, even Disneyland, no way. I mean, even Disneyland at this point isn't going to it's going to get way more alcohol in the years to come. I guarantee it. But that's one thing, though, that DCA will start to lose its edge a little bit, because now the third park will have alcohol as well. So you're kind of splitting that up a little bit, for the locals, right? Now you can go to the other park now for your beer or your cocktail. You don't have to go to DCA. That's another thing. It's cutting in a little bit to DCA. So it's an interesting dynamic. That's a great question, Robert. Fantastic question. And we don't really even know, to be fair, the impact Epic Universe will have in Orlando.
True.
A lot of people assume, Epic Universe is going to open and Disney's going to be the one that hurts from that. Not necessarily. They might cannibalize their own parks. You just don't know. You really don't. But Universal is making headway.
we recently had a scheduling change when it came to our trip going out there to Walt Disney World. We have a trip scheduled for summer of 2023, as some of you might know, and we adjusted the schedule just to kind of make room for Universal. So, because it was like, hey, we're out there, we might as well see it. So I think a lot of families are making the same, changes to their itineraries in order to incorporate some more of these properties. Maybe Epic Universe gets another day because of that. We will see. It's a very fascinating story. Watch that for sure.
Yeah, and our buddy Showcase says, don't like alcohol in the parks, especially the castle parks. Greedy move by Disney to push alcohol. Yep. Hey, look, I respectfully disagree, Showcase, but you are not alone in that opinion. You are absolutely not alone. A lot of diehard fans, they agree with you that that alcohol should be left out of these castle parks. It's an opinion shared by many, and I don't know.
I think, and we've gone over this before, I think there are ways to do it safely. I think there are ways to do it where you can control people's alcohol consumption in a way that doesn't disrupt any guests, either to the person purchasing alcohol nor to the guests around them, that kind of thing. And I think Disney's I think they have done a pretty good job at mitigating any of those let's say risks per se with the selling of alcohol at these castle parks. I think they've done a pretty good job. We'll see as this whole thing develops. They have been rolling it out slowly, which is nice. And I mean that's not to say that they won't roll it out even more in the future. I think they will. But it's a controversial move. Obviously, not everybody's on board. There are definitely people like Showcase who have a problem with it. I think though the balance between revenue generation and people who have kind of concerns about that, I think they've struck a pretty good line so far. We'll see how it develops. Yeah, no,
100%. I agree with you, Dre, on that. I think they have struck a pretty good line, balancing that. And this is totally anecdotal, but when I go to DCA, I don't see a lot of issues, alcohol-related issues, like drunkards, like stumbling, like some rando, like chilling, like drinking, like on the parade route. I don't see a lot of this stuff. I think that Disney, the cast members do a really great job at regulating and spotting if someone had too much. Now, that's not to say that DCA has never had a problem with someone going overboard. Absolutely have. But the vast majority of guests, I just don't see that, and I don't know. And as long as they continue to maintain that control, we're good. Once it goes off the rails, though, and we start to see some more issues, and I don't know. Now, Florida, I got to be honest, Florida seems to have more issues with the alcohol. People trying to scale the Epcot, Mexico temple thing. Mm-hmm, yeah. I've seen that quite a bit, actually. Oh, man. I don't know. That's Florida's got a whole nother. I don't see as much of that here. A little more of an issue in Florida, I think, but I don't know. And that scaling of the Mexico Pavilion, that's kind of a scary thing because there's a fireworks launch point on top of there, and it's a control booth on top. It's a whole mess. So that's something. Disney fan 55 after White Claw and the beer carts. We need more bricks, not more alcohol. Well, that's an interesting discussion. Discussion for I think sure. Showcase might have an opinion or two on that one. Captain John D. Epcot World Showcase can get pretty gnarly at night. Interesting. That's I had not heard that before. Maybe Showcase of Wishes, right? And World Showcase, right? The connection there. Showcase a big Epcot fan, from what I understand. Maybe he has been privy to Disney not necessarily controlling alcohol to the degree that they should have. To the point about the Mexico Pavilion and so forth. Maybe that's something, and maybe he's coming at it from that unique perspective and says, "Hey, Castle Park's no go." Interesting thing for sure. Yeah, no, 100%. And Casual says some drunk bum put barges in the lagoon. Yeah, I'm telling you, whoever greenlit those barges in the Epcot World Showcase Lagoon, I think they were kicking back a few, that's for sure. And probably stronger than just White Claw, I'll tell you that much.
The intention was to always have the barges move. It was to have them move. And when that got cut, that should have been the end of it. Should have been no bueno. But unfortunately, they were so far along in that process. What do you do? You know,
right.
How do you make that work? And that sunk the whole thing right from jump, because there was no show. No show was going to make up for these barges being visible 24/7. It wasn't going to do it. And Harmonious was definitely not that show, which is an interesting kind of thing. You've now had Rivers of Light. That didn't go so well. Enchantment. That didn't go so well. Harmonious. That didn't go so well. They're changing out 2 of those. And now KiteTails. I mean, the entertainment department, as far as part of Imagineering, trying to figure out these shows for Walt Disney World, I mean, they have struck out a lot recently.
A lot.
Yikes.
A lot. Yeah. Yeah, they have. And that when you put it like that, they've had quite a few misses. And that's not even including Mickey's Mixed Magic over here in Anaheim.
No.
That's a whole other can of worms.
Oh, God. So bad. Please, find another projection-only show. Please develop something. This is terrible. I'd much rather than play, I don't know, Disneyland Forever just without anything else, just the projections. That'd be a far better show to at least endure if in fact fireworks aren't playing or something happens or whatever. Terrible show, terrible. I don't know, the Walt Disney Imagineering Entertainment Department. I don't know what is going on, but not good. They gotta figure that out.
Yeah, no, they got some issues because they used to really do. And look, Steve Davison, who I don't even know, does Steve even work at Disney anymore? I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, well, he did Harmonious. He was giving interviews for that show. I think in October or September of 2021, if I'm not mistaken.
It seems like, and I'm not trying to gossip or create rumors or anything, but I just feel like they've minimized his role within the company, because before it was every show was a Steve Davison production, and it was, and I feel like that's not the case anymore, which is interesting. But he used to make some really great stuff. Now he fell off a little bit though in the past few years. I don't know. His stuff started to go downhill, but those early Davison years with Believe, Magic in the Stars, even the original World of Color. He did, I think, Remember Dreams Come True. I mean, he produced some bangers, some absolute bangers.
Well, and that's not even including his other projects like this It's a Small World Holiday, or Night Before Christmas as a Haunted Mansion Holiday. So it's he has produced some really great stuff. I have heard he's had some kind of personal issues, so I don't want to necessarily hit on him too bad. But as his role has been minimized with throughout the company, and you've now had some B and C teams develop projects in the case of Rivers of Light or Enchantment. I don't know. It's just not a great, not a favorable mix, let's say, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it just hasn't been quite the same. Not to say that these shows are bad. It's just we remember how good the previous shows were, and that's what happens with Happily Ever After, for instance, right? Remember Dreams Come True, Disneyland Forever, Harmonious replacing Illuminations. People remember how good it was. So when you replace these things, it's got to be better. In some cases, it's just not.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. Well, we're getting a new fireworks show out here at Disneyland, Wondrous, for the Walt Disney Company's 100th anniversary. Now, the song for that, we heard it at D23 Expo, sounds phenomenal. I love the song. We'll see how that show is. Hopefully they pull all the punches and it's quality. We'll see.
We also have World of Color 1 that's coming, which is pretty cool. World of Color is a lot of people really love that show. Now, from my kind of standpoint, I could see where a new show could come in, some of the effects, let's say, that were kind of built around certain segments of World of Color 1.0 just don't, they either no longer exist anymore or didn't work in the first place or whatever. So they've had to adapt that show over the years to reflect that. And yeah, it's probably time to maybe look at something completely brand new. So I'm personally excited for it, but hey, these things are beloved. You gotta do them with care.
Yeah. And Showcase says here, slot machines coming with sports betting. Now, this is an interesting topic. This is an interesting topic, and my chat you guys are probably going to disagree with me on this, but I have no problem with the sports betting with ESPN. It's Chapek made it very clear, like the sports betting is going to stay under that ESPN umbrella. And look, it's a different audience. ESPN is a different audience than the Disney fans, the people watching the Tinkerbell movies on D+, right? It's a different audience. And here's the thing. If Disney's going to start buying stuff up, they're going to buy a company or a network like ESPN. They can't go in there and buy something that's not like Disney-fied already, buy it up, and then Disney-fy it. It's not really fair to sports fans for them to do that. ESPN has to reflect what the sports community is doing.
Yeah.
ESPN should not reflect what Magic key holders want. Okay, I mean, that's, it's a different audience. I mean, Michael Eisner did a great job with when he bought Miramax. He didn't Disney-fy Miramax. They owned the studio. Everyone knew Disney owned Miramax, but they still made movies like Pulp Fiction. They didn't try to Disney it down, water it down, make it fluffy and whatever. It was still vulgar, vile entertainment. That's what Miramax did. You can't buy this stuff up and Disney-fy everything. So ESPN, they want to do sports betting, fine. That's in the culture, in that sports world, which I'm not a part of at all. I do not like sports, but in that sports world, that's part of that whole thing. And ESPN has to roll with those changes, in my opinion. Now, I don't want to see like slot machines and sports betting, like, at Disneyland. No, I don't want to see that. But if they look on Downtown Disney, if there's a sports bar or something and they want to do it there, fine. I don't care. What do you think about that, Drew?
Look, as a sports fan, specifically an NFL fan for sure, you watch an NFL football game and you tell me how many advertisements you get for sports betting. I mean, there are just an endless slew of commercials, ads, so forth for sports betting. This is very much becoming a huge part of the sports culture. And like Chapek has said, it's kind of something that ESPN fans and so forth, ESPN viewers, watchers, the target demographic for Disney in this realm are expecting. It's not just that they want it, it's that they expect to have it. I mean, right. And from Chapek's viewpoint, he actually thinks they're a little bit too late to get into sports betting. That's how much this has grown, developed, and has become its own thing. You have fantasy leagues popping up at workplaces all across the country, as some people in the chat can probably attest to. I mean, this is a big deal. It's a big deal, and from what I understand, the ESPN brand, that's kind of been a monkey on the back of Disney for quite a while. Some people have actually speculated over the years, could they possibly get rid of ESPN because it just wasn't the revenue driver as it had been in former years when it was just like the mothership, when it was just like the only game in town. Now you have everybody in their brother having a sports network, right? So there's a lot more competition than ever existed before. No, I do not do sports betting myself, but I am very much connected to that world through various ways. I won't get into here, but it's a big deal. It's a huge deal, and ESPN. I mean, for the sake of the brand, I think Chapek really sees, hey, this is our inlet into this. Using the ESPN brand that has been. There's obviously connections made between it and the Disney company for sure, but it's been quite sequestered from the larger Disney company brands in a very similar way that Touchstone and Miramax has before it. And from what I understand, they want to do kind of an associative deal with an actual booking company, right? A sports betting company, and kind of integrate themselves into this world that way. I think they're going at it about it in a smart way, and that doesn't mean that we'll get slot machines on the Disney cruise lines, and stuff that some people have been, criticizing Disney for ever since Cruise Line was launched back in the 90s, which is very interesting. However, to integrate this kind of burgeoning market that has just taken on a life of its own, I think JPEG might be dumb not to at least consider it, to be honest with you. I mean, it's a huge, huge deal. And as we said before on various shows, sports betting, it's looked at very differently than it was even 20 years ago.
Well, yeah, and even if you look at like the film side of things, right? When Disney bought Fox, what was the big concern with a lot of Marvel fans? Are they going to water down Deadpool? They buy Fox, now they own Deadpool, right?
Yeah.
Or now they got the rights for Deadpool. The big concern was that they're going to water this character down. That's meant to be an R-rated character.
Right.
So it wouldn't be right, in my opinion, for Disney to buy Fox and then go in there and now force changes on those fans of Deadpool.
I agree.
Just because Disney decided they wanted to buy this thing.
Yeah.
You have to respect the product you're buying. You can't go in there and just go in there and change everything to conform to Disney's image. So same with ESPN, and you mentioned the sports betting is a big part of that world. If you're going to own ESPN, then you're going to get involved in that world. You're going to move with that culture. And, that's just the way it is. And our buddy Showcase says sports betting third gate. There we go.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna be Disney's Draft King right here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's gonna be like Pleasure Island, but a modern version of it. Oh gosh,
it's wild. And then Michael Meesmouth says, "I love Showcase of Wishes." We all do. Showcase of Wishes is a national treasure. We love Showcase.
A national treasure. And some of the guys, I mean, I don't want to reveal anybody's information out there, but we know some people in Florida. I Showcase, he's definitely of the Florida area. We were worried for not just him, but his family. He's a really good dude, really good guy. Like OG has said, a national treasure for sure. We love him. We absolutely love him.
We absolutely love him. Absolutely love him. And Disney fan 55, respect the product like Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was just gonna bring it up. It's very funny because, that's a whole thing. But no, I mean, Marvel initially was very concerned about that Disneyfying effect that you talk about, OG. They were afraid that they were going to lose their kind of unique identity that they want to kind of cultivate and were, maturing as it relates to the development of the MCU. And it was John Lasseter and some others that said, hey, now, they'll allow you to keep your unique identity. They'll give you money. They just want a little bit more back. That's just kind of how all that goes. Now, Lucasfilm, that was quite the different issue. It didn't really have a distinct identity. They hadn't produced films for 10 years. They didn't have a production or development pipeline in the same way that Marvel was actively doing at that time. So they had to take a little bit more of a hands-on take on it. And as Matt Bellany and others have illustrated in recent articles, maybe didn't go so well. Let's just be honest. And this is why there has not been any film product. There is definitely let's say a reimagining when it comes to Lucasfilm and Star Wars product as we get into this new decade. So keep an eye on that one for sure. By the way, Deadpool, Wolverine, so excited.
Yes. Yo, that trailer was freaking amazing. So Ryan Reynolds is so freaking hilarious. That guy can do anything, and I'll just crack up. He's just so brilliant, so brilliant. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna close it out. Before we do though, I found to kind of close it out. I found two channels recently, and one of them relates to like nerd culture. The other one has nothing to do with nerd culture, but he has a very interesting channel. So I want to bring it up to the audience. So yeah, I like to do this every now and then just because, hey, look, it's fun to, like I said earlier, to kind of discover new content, right? And I think most of our audience won't know either one of these. So it'll be kind of fun.
Highlight the hidden gems amongst YouTube. I love it. I absolutely
Yes. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. So the first one I'm going to highlight is, hold on one sec. It's Flav City with Bobby Parrish. Okay, now look, you guys are probably thinking I'm nuts. Okay. This guy is awesome. This guy's awesome. Now he'll go to like McDonald's, right? It's fascinating. Even if you're not like a health nutrition person, he'll go to places like McDonald's and he'll go through the menu and kind of break down like what's good for you and what's not. And he's very well versed in like the ingredients and all that stuff. Like for the layman, we wouldn't really understand any of it. And he breaks it down for you. And he'll even tell you like, okay, what you think the salad at McDonald's, you would think it's a healthy option. It's not. It's got more calories than the Big Mac. Shit like that. It's really, really fascinating stuff. Bobby Flav City is awesome. Love this guy. Follow him, subscribe to him. He's really, really cool, man. Really, really cool. And the second content creator I want to shout out today is Melanie Mac Go Boom. I just found out about her just the other day, man. And she is hilarious. Freaking hilarious. It has me on the floor with her Rings of Power stuff and her Marvel stuff. She is a really, really funny content creator. Go ahead, Dre.
No, she is funny. She's been on some panels with, I don't want to necessarily, some people have some associations, but she's been on some panels with some other YouTube content creators before. I've only kind of seen her work through them. So when I went to her channel and watch, she is very funny. She is a very, she takes a very interesting perspective and look at all these kind of things, a little bit more cerebral than some of the content creators who kind of, I don't know, let's say hate on these things, for clicks or whatever. No, I mean, she definitely kind of breaks these down. She actually watches the content and so forth and kind of judges on kind of an episode basis. It's pretty funny, man. It's pretty great. And her analysis is actually, I mean, it's not only just humorous, but it's actually kind of profound in some ways.
Oh, it is. It is. Like she was kind of going over like the She-Hulk stuff, and she made some great points. Like like Jen wants to be accepted as Jen, right? Like in the whole show, it's very much like she's looking for acceptance as just who she is. But then for her dating profile, she puts her as She-Hulk. It's like, okay, so you want to be accepted as Jen, but then you're selling yourself as She-Hulk. And Melanie brought that up. And I'm like, that's a fantastic point. I never, ever, ever considered that. And I'm like, okay. So to your point, Ray, very cerebral, very thoughtful, insightful analysis on all things nerd culture. Doesn't touch the parks. There's no park stuff, but it's all kind of like film, TV, streaming, stuff like that. Really, really fun content creator. She's definitely worth subscribing to. Yeah,
she's fun. You might disagree with her, no question. And right, and we all have those creators that we disagree with occasionally. But the chick that eats butter sticks, that
she does
true.
Actually. In that one video, she's chewing on one.
Yes.
I think that's part of the stick, but she's in her car eating a butter stick.
Yes. And she's talking about crazy people while she eats butter. A very, very funny kind of humorous commentary for sure. Look, listen, like I said, you might disagree with her for sure. And I'm not a fan of the butter myself. However, you could at least, laugh at it a little bit and don't take it too seriously.
100%. We're going to close it out, but I think Showcase is trying to tell us something, Dre.
Oh, yeah. Going to go to Carl's Jr. Well, we got to do it. We got to do it for Showcase. Again, we take audience requests sometimes. Got to do it in this instance.
Here we go. There we go. There we go.
I got another loop there, I see.
I put it on the loop. I put it on the loop. So we got some, let me see here. Captain John D's YouTube channel is the funny. Captain John D is hilarious. Captain John D, if you can go ahead and link your channel in the comments, brother. Link your channel in the comments, brother. Your stuff is hilarious. We love your content, man. We love your content.
It's pretty good. If YouTube will let you. If not, you could just take if you click the hyperlink and you take it from C and then the code afterwards and you put that in the chat, that'll be good as well. Pretty spicy for sure. Spicy. Pretty funny nonetheless. Pretty funny.
Actually, I Captain, I got your link. I'm gonna put it right here, and that's Mr. Captain John D. Oh, okay. There we go. You might have to cut and paste that. I don't think. Yeah, it's not gonna do the. You can't click on it. Yeah,
it's all right.
Yeah. But definitely check him out. He does a lot of great content, and yeah, he's a friend of the channel for sure. Friend of the channel for sure.
Big friend of the channel. Definitely look at his stuff. I mean, look, he touches on some of our contemporaries, and while we can't necessarily give an opinion on that, we can at least judge the content for what it is, and the content itself is very amusing. So there you go.
Awesome. It's awesome. Well, I want to thank everybody that joined us today. We had an absolute blast. Captain John D, Michael Meets the Mouse, Showcase of Wishes, Robert White, Alia, Disney Fan 55, Theme Park Casual. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. I'm kind of going through. I can never pronounce your name. Mule? And Robert White. Just a ton of
Wildest Casual, Wizard, all of that.
Wizard, yeah, exactly. So a lot of great people today. As always, we love you guys and gals. Thank you so much for joining us and just talking Disney with us. And again, to kind of close it out, our hearts, prayers, thoughts are with everyone in Florida right now. You guys are going through some major stuff, and we love you. And hey, we're all part of this big community here. This park community, and Florida is a huge part of that community. So
absolutely,
you always have friends here at OG55.
We
Elgo is in the chat too. I love Elgo.
Elgo Showcase, of course. We had a lot of friends and family even down in Florida, and we've taken some inventory of those loved ones, and they're from what we understand, they're doing well. We'll know in the days ahead, but we have a connection to Florida, and it felt really kind of, I don't know. This one felt different because we had so many not only things we love in Florida, but people we love in Florida, and to see what they're going through right now. I mean, it was very impactful on us for sure. It's been kind of a stressful week because of that, and so again, our thoughts, prayers, everything. As with you in Florida right now, whatever you're going through. Like OG said, you got a home and a friend here.
100%. And Showcase reminded us Wildest. He was in here earlier tonight. Wildest is a friend of the channel too. Great guy. Great guy. Mm-hmm. And Casual, make sure to smash that like button before you go. Yes, thank you so much, Casual. We appreciate you, sir. And thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful night. And as always, stay safe. Bye-bye now.